look at the eventfulness of free agency this year, it's been nuts. It's been absolutely nuts. And one of the moves that we had kind of broken down already was Jerry Jeudy coming to the Browns. We were both big fans of it. And at that time, in that video, I remember particularly you had said, I don't know as though we should extend him yet. And I actually was of the opinion, hey, I think we should extend him. I think doing a 3-year extension works because it takes him like right up to 28, 29. He can still get paid. Well, here we are. I guess I'm locked into Andrew Barry up here. I guess I don't know. We'll see. But yeah. Derek, when we look at this extension, so the raw numbers of it, right? So let's get that in front of me. So it was a 3-year, $58 million deal. And when you look at that and you look at the production that Jerry Jeudy has had, and I guess the potential he's fulfilled so far as an NFL receiver, a lot of people's initial reactions are overpay. Overpay. And Derek, before I kind of break down my opinions on this deal, what are kind of your thoughts going into it? And what can you say about the contract that you're expecting? Because, again, the full details have not come out yet. So there's a slight chance this slightly changes our opinions on it. But I think we have a good idea, especially through the help of, creators such as Jack Duffin, who's kind of making this a little bit more digestible for us to expand upon. So give him a follow. We say it all the time, but please do. When we're kind of break some of this stuff down for us.
Yeah, so first of all, my reaction, I thought it was a joke. I was on the phone with a buddy, shout out to you, Tino, and he goes, "Oh my gosh, we just extended Jerry Jeudy." And I was like, "You're lying." I was like, no, we didn't. And I want to go back because yes, you said you thought we should. It's not that I wasn't confident in Jerry Jeudy. It was just I didn't feel as if the Browns were going to gamble. I thought it was, okay, we're going to let him play this year on his 5th-year option, and then maybe a couple games in, halfway into the season, then you start negotiating. That's kind of how I saw it playing out. But don't get me wrong. Me saying that I didn't think it was going to happen is not me saying I didn't want it to happen. I have been huge for years. Like, I wanted us to trade for him when he was a 1st or 2nd round pick. Like,
this
that's
is
what
well documented. This is well documented. If you just Google search you and Jerry Jeudy, like, oh my gosh, you're gonna see 10s, 20 videos.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And Andrew Barry has proven that this is the guy that he wanted. Jerry Jeudy was the guy, and the inability to trade for him over the last couple of years was not a lack of interest by any means. I think that's clear now. I think it was just, listen, we didn't have the assets. It wasn't a great spot for us to do it. And I think partially the Elijah Moore situation is a reason why this did happen. I think Elijah Moore, you move down, I forget how many spots. I want to say 20 spots essentially to get Elijah Moore. And, Elijah is what Elijah is, but he's not a number 2. And we both went into it this offseason saying, hey, got to figure out receiver. And, the contract extension itself, 3 years, $58 million, 41 guaranteed. When you break all that down and you look deeper into it, this is not a situation where it's not as black and white as it seems, right? And an important thing to understand here is a lot of times agents will hype it up more than it is because it looks better for them. That's what they do. They want to look great. It is what it is. But the numbers we have currently, when you break it down, you factor in the 5th-year option, Jerry Jeudy's going to be playing on essentially $13 million next year, which was restructured, and the majority of that is in a signing bonus. So essentially, Judy's going to be playing around probably like what, 3-4 million, something along those lines.
Yeah, I want to say Duffin projected at 3.5.
Okay.
Yeah, I can find that right now while you're expanding.
Yeah, so roughly, I mean, regardless, it's going to be cheaper. It's a lot cheaper. But looking past next year, past next season, Judy's contract is going to be around $14 million as far as a base salary. So let's put all this into context here. And I don't want to ramble too long here. But just to give you some examples of wide receivers getting paid around that money, Jacoby Myers, Alan Lazard, both getting paid $11 million per. Darnell Mooney, Gabe Davis, and DeAndre Hopkins are getting paid $13 million. So in that 13-14 range, that's where you're at. And you might look at that and say, oh, I'd rather have DeAndre Hopkins than Jerry Jeudy. Hey, completely understand that argument. I think D-Hop is amazing. But in terms of what the Browns have been looking for, Jeudy fits the mold to a T. 6'1", 194 pounds. He's 24 years old. He'll be 25 when the season comes. And Tristan, we'll talk about it later with linebacker. But we've seen Andrew Berry take flyers on first and second round picks in free agency, see if they'll work out. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But quickly here, I want to go back and kind of recap Judy's career real fast. So there's a lot of people writing him off and saying, oh, he's a bust, he sucks, he can't play football. All right. I hear your arguments, but let's put some of this into context here. Let's quickly go back to college. National championship winner, Blitnikoff Award winner in 2018, consensus All-American 2018, two-time first team All-SEC 18 and 19. His college stats, 42 games played, 159 receptions, 2,742 yards, 26 TDs, and that was in 3 seasons, but pretty much in 2 seasons, because when you look at it, obviously when he's younger at Alabama, you're not going to get the playing time. So that's pretty much 2 seasons. Coming into the NFL gave him a 6.77 prospect grade, which means year 1 starter. That's borderline Pro Bowl, which is crazy if you know anything about the draft and these prospects and how to kind of read all that. He was very highly graded. 3rd in production score, 22nd in athleticism score. He ran a 4.45 40, 1.48 10-yard split, 4.35 20-yard shuttle. And Tristan, I don't know if you've seen this, but kind of looking into this Jerry Jeudy stuff more, I was blown away. Guess who they compared him to? Just take a wild flyer on who you think they compared him to. Coming into the NFL. It's not who you think.
Well, first thought would say Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
But is that who it was?
No, it's not who you think.
Okay.
I'll give you a hint because if we'll go all night trying to guess.
Mm-hmm.
This player is a division rival. He played in the division. He has one of the most historic moments in a Super Bowl. And he was just a great wide receiver.
So my second guess before you even said that, you said division rival and it popped into my head. The other name I had was Hines Ward.
Close. But it is not Hines Ward.
Oh,
I'll give you a hint.
Who's the guy that caught Santonio Holmes?
Yes.
Okay.
Santonio Holmes.
That's what I thought.
That was the comparison that they gave Jerry Jeudy coming in. And that is like very high regard. Like when I mean Jeudy was looked at as like a top 10 to be receiver in the NFL coming in, right? So I want to throw that out there. Obviously, he's been in the league now. That's what matters the most, but I want to give context. Coming in, very highly regarded. Tristan, let's quickly take a look here at his NFL career. He has played with the unbelievable quarterbacks of Drew Lock, Teddy Bridgewater, Russell Wilson, Brett Rippon, and Jarrett Stidham. Now, aside from Russell Wilson, I think that me or you might be able to contend with some of those guys. Probably not, but you get the point. Not great. Not great in the NFL as far as guys you're playing with. And Russ, when he was there, they just released him. Just let him go. That's how bad Russell Wilson was in Denver. So for all of you who say, Jeudy is a bust, he is all that, whatever, the guy has played in horrible offenses with inconsistency at both the quarterback position, offensively, as far as like head coach, play callers, those sorts of things, and still good production. 856 yards his rookie season with Drew Lock as his quarterback. His best year in the NFL was 15 games played, 972 yards, 6 touchdowns. That was with Russell Wilson and Brett Rippon. So everybody who's like, oh, he's not a 1,000-yard receiver, he missed a couple games and still had 972 yards and 6 touchdowns. Stop with this Jerry Jeudy sucks and he's never produced. It's old. It's old. So career, 57 games played, 3,053 yards and 11 touchdowns. That's his career in Denver. So hopefully that puts it all into context. But the last thing, and then I'll shut up and let you go, Tristan. I want to play a game. And Tristan got to look at my notes, so he already knows who this player is. But this is mostly for those of you at home. We're going to go.
I didn't read all your notes, so I just took a peek. So there's a chance I actually don't know this.
Okay. Well, we're going to play a game, Tristan. How fun.
Games.
Guess the player. One of these players is Jerry Jeudy. The other is another receiver in the NFL. Age, 26, going to be 27. The other player, 24, going to be 25. You already know the answer if you
I'm not
pay
even
attention.
kidding you. If you could see my screen, I've got the Jack Duffin tweet. If this is the player, Michael Pittman.
Yeah. Oh, you gave it away.
Oh crap! Sorry. You can bleep that out. You can bleep that out.
Okay. Should I bleep that out? Yeah, I'll bleep it out.
You want to
Okay.
cut it? You want to cut it and then?
I'll just bleep that part out. So,
right.
Tristan just gave it away.
I'm
But
sorry.
nevertheless, one player, 341 receptions. The other player, 212 receptions. The other one player, 3,752 yards. The other player, 3,053 yards. Or 68 yards, sorry. One player averages 11 per. The other, 14.5 per. The other player, 15 touchdowns. I should have just said A and B because this is getting confusing. But anyway, the other player, 11 touchdowns. Now, if you look at that, there's probably like about 120 difference as far as receptions go, and around a 700 yards difference for the yards between the two. Now, one of these players is clearly Jerry Jeudy, getting paid $14 million per year, as we broke down, assuming that's how it is. And the other player is getting paid $23.3 million per year. When you compare the stats and everything in context, one guy is younger, 2 years younger, in fact. Very similar production, very similar across the board. Huge difference in contracts. Tristan, would you like to share who the other player is?
Yes. After I already revealed it,
Yeah.
but you bleeped it out. Let me reveal it again. So that player, that's 26, going to turn 27 with 341 receptions, 3,752 yards, 11 yards per reception, and 15 touchdowns, who cost $23.3 million a year, is Mr. Michael Pittman of the Indianapolis Colts.
Yep. Michael Pittman Jr., a guy who we would have loved to have in Cleveland.
Yeah. He was at the top of both of our lists.
Both of our lists, T. Higgins and him. And I say all of this to say the Browns traded a 5th and a 6th round pick for a soon-to-be 25-year-old, former 15th overall pick, who is fast and who is quite literally, not exaggerating, not making it out to be too big than it is, best route runners in the NFL. He is probably top 5, top 10, one of the best route runners in the NFL. He gets separation, he's a playmaker, and he's shown flashes of being a great receiver in the NFL. That's the guy that you get, and you extend him on a contract that currently is putting him in the same conversation as the Darnell Mooneys, Gabe Davises of the world. And Tristan, I think he can be way, 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 way better than those players. No disrespect to them, but my opinion, I think Jerry Jeudy can be your wide receiver one. And if you're paying your wide receiver one $14 million per year, just wait and see how that looks next offseason or the offseason after that. It is dirt cheap. So anybody who's upset with this contract, I understand the argument of like, hey, he hasn't played a game for the Browns. But at the same time, this is a gamble. And I think this gamble is more of a sure thing than multiple other gambles that have been made. So, Tristan, the Browns extend Jerry Jeudy. He's going to be a Cleveland Brown for at least 4 years. Another weapon in the offense. Another young player to surround Deshaun Watson with and get the best out of him, hopefully. What do you think? What was your reaction when you first saw the notification Jerry Jeudy's been extended? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, so my initial type of reaction to this was I was a bit shocked. I said it could happen. I didn't necessarily expect it to happen, and I didn't expect it to happen so quickly. Was the big thing with it. You know, when and before I necessarily even get deeper into Jerry Jeudy, something I want to talk about here. There's a very common theme about this offseason so far with the signings that we are bringing through the door. And these are guys that AB has tracked for a long time and has wanted for a long time. It's been widely reported that even since 2 years ago, the Browns were in on Jerry Jeudy. When we moved off of Baker Mayfield, it was reported that we were in on Jameis Winston as the alternative to start if we could not land Deshaun Watson. Quentin Jefferson, he even said with Nathan Zagura on Browns Daily that he had actually met with the Browns last year, and it was down to him going to either the Browns or the Jets, and he ended up picking the Jets because he just thought it was a bit of a better fit for him. He comes back. And then I didn't read too much into this, but I do believe that the Browns were previously in for Deontay Foreman as well. I believe I heard that somewhere. Again, that's possible. I'm misremembering, and maybe it's another guy. But if you look at these signings, several of them are guys that AB had tracked previously, wanted previously, and he's finally got them, right? Mm-hmm. And it's exciting and it's interesting because, I feel like AB with his free agent signings has done fairly well, especially in these recent years. Like last offseason, he really crushed it. I mean, bringing in Dalvin Tomlinson, Zarius Smith, Shelby Harris, Mo Hurst, like completely changed our defense. It evolved it to a whole nother level. And then, of course, his offseason trades with Amari Cooper and such. He's made a lot of really smart acquisitions in free agency. And when we look at this team now, it's just been brilliant move after brilliant move that's built this team up. And so it's interesting that this was a guy that he wanted really, really bad. And, there's something to be said about a guy who, let's call it what it is, right? He has not lived up to the expectation that everybody has placed upon him, right? Everybody was expecting him to be a guy that within 2 or 3 seasons was a top 5 receiver in the league and was going to be one of the best players in the NFL. Point blank period. That's what the expectation was for him. And, because he's a first round pick and because he has those expectations in Denver, those fans are upset that he isn't that, right? but that doesn't mean he's not a good receiver. Like, even if he just is able to produce what he did in Denver here, that's still a very solid, like, upper middle pack number 2 receiver in the league. And it fills a huge need for us. So, and Derek, you and I both agree, if we can get some stability at the quarterback position, that he could be a wide receiver 1. And we just haven't seen the best from him yet. And I really don't think so. I don't think he's entered his prime. And I don't think, I think this is a guy that can grow here. I think we can both agree with that. The money, right? Let's talk about the money here for a sec. And then I do want to go back to, being wanted and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Mike Williams just signed a contract with the New York Jets.
Yeah.
1 year, $15 million. I wanted Mike Williams here, and I would have been comfortable with the $20 million cap hit for a year, so I'm not going to say that this is a terrible deal for the Jets. What I will say is, like, are we really that upset that, like, Mike Williams cost $1 million more than Jerry Jeudy? And we're talking about not Jerry Jeudy this year, because this year he's projected to have a $3.5 million cap hit. So we're talking about a number that, remember, we're likely going to be restructuring deals. He might end up being part of restructures too. Like, the way I see it, if the Browns find a way that they can fit him under his cap in the cap, and he's able to be productive here, right? Like, his cap number will not matter. It will not matter, as it has not mattered for several players here. And I just look at this deal and I say, are we really going to freak out at this number, at the projected $14 million? And where we get that $14 million is assuming that part of the guaranteed money that Jerry Jeudy has within that $41 million fully guaranteed of the $58 million is from his 5th-year option, which that is like $13-14 million alone.
Yeah.
We take that out, his base salary goes down to $14 million a year. And then the rest is incentives, which, hey, listen, I would love...
If you earn it, you earn it.
Like, if he earns every penny of that $58 million, it means he's earned every penny of that $58 million. And he's been a productive player for us. So, I have no issues with that. And I don't think if he hits the incentives, nobody else is going to have issues with it either. So, I think there's a lot of overreaction. And I think when people see the cap number broken down and, kind of everything kind of spread out, I think it will start to make a lot of sense. Now, let's go back to being wanted. Right? So I talked about it. Jerry Jeudy's been in that environment where he's had, I don't want to say unrealistic expectations for him, but extremely high expectations for him. And people didn't see him living up to that. And people started using that against him. And that's not fair to a guy who, he doesn't control where he's drafted, right? He doesn't control his quarterback. He doesn't control his head coach. He doesn't control his offense. And everything that's gone on around him in Denver has been chaos. It's been instability. And we can say that because we've seen it, right? Yep. So, I think he is the perfect representation of somebody who is the byproduct of being in a bad environment for him. I think day one he shows up for camp, right? He's on a team that has wanted him for the past 2 years with a GM and a head coach who believe in him, and a new OC that clearly also is on board with the guy coming in. And not only that, right? The team that has wanted you for 2 years is heading in the right direction, made playoffs last year, even though they had a bunch of injuries, has a really good culture now, which is not what he had before. Not only that, but they believed in you so much that before you even played it down for this team, they guaranteed you $41 million. They believed in you that much.
Yep.
That's got to say something to him, man. He's got to, when he walks through that door, he's got to feel loved by everybody in that facility. And he should. He should feel embraced. He should feel loved. And that's the type of guy that if there is ever a reason for him to hey, Deshaun, let's stick around and let's throw around for an hour. You know, like let's put in some extra work. You know, like this is going to be the most motivated Jerry Judy's ever been in his life.
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to be the healthiest situation he's been in his professional career. I shouldn't have said life before, but professional career,
Mm-hmm.
right? You know, I got a really good feeling about this. You
Yeah.
know, like people were very very critical of the David Njoku extension when it first
Mm-hmm.
happened. And now we look back at that extension and seeing the talent that David has and seeing us finally being able to piece it together on the field. um, Nobody's going to blink an eye at his contract, right? Nobody is anymore. And you know, that's because AB realized the talent that he had, realized the person that he had, and he knew that he had to keep him. And in this situation, you got a guy in who's super young, super talented, has lots of potential, and like the way I see it, this could go down as one of the best contracts that AB ever signs.
Mm-hmm.
It has that potential. Now I'm not even. There's people that are listening to this and they're saying, Tristan, you're being unrealistic. You know, you're way too high on this guy. You're being insane. I understand there's a risk. I
Mm-hmm.
completely understand that. But let's just assume that what he was doing in Denver comes over to here and that's all he's able to do and he's not able to do more, which I highly doubt that
Yeah.
will be the case. Compared to the other guys that got paid, is it really that big of an overpay?
No.
You know, it's not. It's not. It's really not. And he's a younger player than all the guys around him that got paid. He's got a higher ceiling than those guys. Of course, I've already discussed that. Um, and not only that, but also with the way the Browns manipulate the cap, it's not like this guy is always year after year going to be 14 million against our cap. I
No.
mean, Deshaun Watson has yet to be any type of huge factor against our cap.
Mm-hmm.
This year could potentially be that year if they decide not to restructure him. I don't know if they did or not, but I'm assuming they are going to end up restructuring his contract again. But like Deshaun Watson's full contract, like cap hit, has never hit all at one time in 1 year. So I highly doubt if Jeudy does not hit the milestones that I expect him to hit, that you expect him to hit, I highly doubt that he is going to be at his full cap hit either. At the end of the day, this is more of a Jimmy Haslam concern than it is a Cleveland Browns football team concern, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think that his money is going to be that big of an issue.
Yeah.
And I think that this, you know, we talk about how this organization has changed so much over the years, and we talk about the positive benefits that this organization has been has been building for themselves, right? These positive things. Players now know that in Cleveland that they're going to be in a place that is going to be competitive because we are competitive. We've been competitive. Even last year when we didn't have a winning record, we were in every single game we played outside of maybe one or two. It was the same thing this year, but funnily enough, we were on the opposite side of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, you're going to compete. You're going to play in a city with fans that really like love you. This is a football town, right?
Mm-hmm.
The excitement, the enthusiasm, it's here. You're going to have plenty of chances to win, and the talent here is so overwhelming that you could end up going all the way. It's a possibility. But not only that, but you're also going to get paid what you deserve to get paid, right? You're going to have the people that are employed here that believe in you to believe in you. You know, like there is no there is no corruption anymore. There's no uh like this is a hockey term, but beer league about this team anymore,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like it's a true professional, forward-thinking organization, and I think this is going to end up being a move that proves it. I really, really
Yeah.
do. Um, I'm over the moon, and the crazy thing is, I've been talking for a little while now. I haven't even talked about the specific parts of Jerry Jeudy and how he fits into this offense.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
because there's so much around it, right? And I think that this guy has the potential to, you know, create some stability at the receiver room because, you know, I want Amari Cooper to finish his career as a Cleveland Brown, right? Now I can have those thoughts and those visions and those opinions that when Amari Cooper finally is done as a Cleveland Brown, he can pass the torch to Jerry Jeudy. Hey, you lead this team now. And all the successful teams in the NFL that have sustained periods of success are able to do that. That's like the Steelers. That's the reason why they have had some like sustained success over the years, as much as we hate it, right? You know, you've got Hines Ward, and then, you know, you've got Antonio Brown. And, you know, unfortunately that fizzled out. But again, from Antonio Brown, for a little bit of time, you had Juju Smith-Schuster, who played at a decently high level. And then you had George Pickens, right? Yeah. Like, that's kind of like what they've had at the receiver position. They've had that kind of transfer, right? And in recent years, it hasn't gone that way. But it's a historical thing. You can see it with that organization in particular for many, many years. I mean, Cam Hayward was like that. I can't remember who was starting above him before he got his opportunity, but regardless, you see my point.
To your example, though, let's go down to Kentucky with the Cincinnati Bengals. Chad Ochocinco, AJ Green, Jamar Chase. I mean,
there's been a passing of the torch.
Yeah.
With these successful organizations. You know, Jerry Jeudy, man, like just the talent he possesses, the raw talent that he has, I think it would be a shame if he wasn't a regular 1,000-yard receiver here in Cleveland. I really do think that that's realistic possibility for him. I don't know as though he's going to be a big touchdown threat with us. Who knows? We'll see. Hopefully that'd be great. But he's a talented receiver, and I think he's going to produce here. I'm confident in that. And what Ken Dorsey especially has been able to do with his wide receiver twos, you know, like I think Jerry Jeudy, as far as talent perspective, is a much better player than Gabe Davis. I do.
I don't think it's close.
I don't particularly think so either. Although I would have been happy with Gabe Davis here again, like would have been, I wouldn't have been the most happy, but I would have been happy with it. I think that this will work. I really, really do. I got a lot of confidence in. I've got a lot of confidence in AB. I got a lot of confidence in Kevin, and I'm excited, and I feel like I'm confident with Ken Dorsey too. So we'll see, man. It's super, super exciting and intriguing, though. I will say that.
Yeah, and a big part of this is, you know, who he has to learn from. That's what I am so excited about. You have a guy with the raw potential of Jerry Jeudy, and I don't think it's raw. I think he is a good player. Like, all these people who are saying he's just hot garbage, I'm laughing because I'm like, get ready. Like, get ready. You know, sure, there are plenty of receivers who have succeeded in college and have failed in the NFL. Okay, I agree. However, situations matter. And sometimes you're in a situation where it doesn't matter how good you are, what talent you have, doesn't matter. Sometimes you just can't succeed in the wrong environment. You can't succeed around the wrong people. And I think that's what this is. I think that is 100% what this is. Excuse me, with Jerry Jeudy. Like, this is a guy who, again, I think people have written off as a failure. But at the same time, a guy who, if he played in 2 more games, would have been well over 1,000 yards with 6 touchdowns. Is that a failure? No, not at all. And, you know, you bring him on this team and you have a guy who he has admired, who he has molded his game after, and respects and looks up to, and Amari Cooper right ahead of him. And even if it is just a year of that, right? Worst case scenario, Amari's gone after next year. It's a possibility. But for the year, you have Jerry Jeudy learning, getting taught with Amari Cooper. And for me, that is what is so incredibly valuable about the whole thing. Is Amari is very, very similar to Jeudy, and I think Jeudy even has some skill sets that set him apart from Amari. I think his speed is one of the most underrated parts of his game. And, when you look at the structure of the wide receiver room now, and I've been pounding the table, get stability, get long-term planning at the wide receiver position. You're paying your quarterback. You have to have help around him. Now, this is a big, big, big piece of the puzzle, in my opinion, because you have Jerry Jeudy, who's currently going to be your wide receiver too. And if all goes as well as planned, he can fill those shoes of being that number one, as you mentioned. So I see no negatives. I really don't, because even in the worst case scenario, he's not going to be worse than what he was in Denver. I think we can all probably agree on that. And aside from the 1 year in Denver when he was hurt, worst case scenario, he's a 700 plus receiver, 700 to 800, roughly up to 900 is what he's been over the course of his career. Even at that, that's more than we're getting from Elijah Moore. That's more than we're getting currently from Tillman or David Bell or anybody along those lines. And you still have David Njoku. So you add another guy there. And it's great. It's awesome. Because now, heading into next offseason, regardless of what happens with Amari Cooper, regardless of what happens with Elijah Moore, you now know you at least, at the bare minimum, have Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman, and David Bell. That's better than just Tillman and Bell. So I'm of the opinion one of those two guys will no longer be a Brown after next year. I tend to believe it's going to be Elijah Moore. But who knows what Cooper could get on the open market. That's stuff we don't have the information on right now as far as what he wants to do. And that's a big reason why I still think the Browns will draft a receiver at some point. I hope it's earlier sooner than later. But, there is no negatives. Like, I see no negatives at all with this. And for everybody who is complaining about the money, I understand. I get your perspective. And I really do hate the whole trust AB thing because, I don't think that's fair. There's no GM that I'm going to say, trust him. Everything he does is great. But what I will say is this. In these situations of taking risks, most cases that Andrew Berry has taken a risk like this, it's paid off, right? I'm old enough to remember when everybody was saying Amari Cooper was washed and is a wide receiver too now. Look at how that's played out. David Njoku, you mentioned it. A guy who got money that at the time we were like, oof, okay. That's worked out pretty damn well. Zadarius Smith. Oh, he's washed. I had a Vikings friend of mine, Vikings fan friend of mine. He's not a Viking himself. Anyway, that's stupid, but you get the point. He was trying to tell me Zadarius Smith is nothing and he's washed. Well, guess what? He is pretty damn good for us. So, does it work out all the time? No. But in this situation, I've been watching Jeudy for a long time. Dude's a stud. He is. And you don't just forget how to play football. Hopefully not. But I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to work out. And I agree with you. I think this is the move that had to be made. This is the move you had to go out and do. You had to get some skill at the wide receiver position. And we did. Are we done at it? Who knows? But at the very least, as we sit here today, Jerry Jeudy is a Cleveland Brown for the next 4 years, minimum. And for Deshaun, that's great. It's awesome. Judy's 24 going on 25. That is awesome. So, but with that being said, after we've talked about that for a long time, let's shift gears here unless you have anything else you want to add.
I got one minor thing I want to touch on. As far as specific schematic fit with Jeudy, I think it's intriguing the prospect of being able to kind of shift him throughout the like where you line him up, because of course he can play in the slot. I think
Yes.
he can play on the boundary fairly well. I don't think that in Denver he got the best opportunity to show what he could do on the boundary. Um, but like the thought of like him and Moore kind of swapping around between the slot and the boundary, I think is intriguing. Makes it really hard to line up against us, and at least game plan against us, especially if there is a mismatch, right? Like if you feel like, you know what, Elijah's speed on the outside, I feel like could really take advantage of this corner that's a little bit slower. You know, like you can match that now. You can make that little adjustment, right? Or you know what? I feel like Jeudy, he can really separate with this guy. You know, like he can really create some separation. With you know, he can play more on the boundary. So, you know, and then you've got your rotation options with Tillman. David Bell, we'll see what becomes of him and what options we can get from him. And then of course you always got Amari Cooper. Like I really think that the mobility, right, the versatility with Jerry
Yes.
Jeudy is gonna make us harder to match up against for sure. I'm excited about it.
Yeah. It just, I think, I really do think, and I said this before, I'll say it again. I think we're going to look back at this and be like, holy shit. Andrew Berry pulled this off. Like, that's insane. That is insane. That's how I feel we're going to look back at it. Maybe we look back at it and say, oh, well, guess that didn't work out. Who knows? That's a possibility. But at the very least, we're
I'm
trying.
already saving up for a Browns game for us next year.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
I'm
Oh, I
already
know.
doing it.
There's, me and a couple of my friends were talking earlier. There's like so many good games too. So many good games. But nevertheless, we got some things to cover here. Let's move on.